What is up, guys? Welcome to Heavy Pedal Garage. My name's Nate. Thanks for stopping by. This is the channel where we're working on this 1975 Firebird. Probably get into a few other projects down the road here, but for now this is the Bird, and here's what we're doing. Left off in the last video with this Fender, so we're going to start sanding down that fiberglass filler I put on there and hopefully get to a point where we can put this Fender back on. So thanks for coming by, and let's get to work. Give you a quick tour of this passenger side fender here. So this is where I welded those brackets in the last video. Go back and check that out. Got a little bit of a dent here that I'm going to work over, but I'm not going to do that just yet. It needs to be on the car to really see where it needs to go. That's what matches up with the valence. Up in here, this car was obviously in an accident. Yeah, when it was all stripped down, I found a bunch of Bondo in this. So I took the Bondo out, and I actually drilled the spot welds out for this little bracket that's on the inside. Took the spot welds out, removed the bracket, and then I hammered and dollied this to get it back to being pretty close. So with it on the car, it mostly matches up. But again, once it's back on the car, I'll fine tune this edge. So moving right along, we'll see how this blocks out, but this fender is pretty smooth. This is actually an Esprit fender, so the Esprits don't have this Trans Am air extractor, so I cut this out of a fender, Trans Am fender that had it, and welded it in. Again, where this car was in a wreck, this wheel arch was kind of funny. It didn't have quite the right shape, and then up underneath the wheel arch was a little bent and odd. So okay, here's to the point of business. We need to fix this up. This really is going to take some work. Block it all out, get some filler on there, and make it right. This was early on in my fabrication and learning days on this car. Taught myself from YouTube and learning to weld, and all of that happened on this car. So this was one of the earlier exterior patches that I did, and it's not my best work, but I am definitely not going to go cut that out and redo it. For what it is, it turned out great, and it's only a car, guys, right? Let's get to blocking this thing out and see where we're at. Okay, so here's where I ended up. Just wanted to get this sanded smooth. So now we're going to flip the fender over and go ahead and start blocking out on the fender while it's on the stand. It'll be a lot easier to do that with it on the stand instead of on the car. And then once it's on the car, I'll fine tune the transition between this fender and the door. So let's flip it over and get blocking out on the other side. Okay, here we go. Mostly got it sanded down, blocked out. Obviously, when you block sanding, you stop when you start to see shiners. You don't want to keep on going because that defeats the purpose. Once you see shiners and dark spots, you know you've got highs and lows. Like right here, this is where I'm not going to mess with right now because I know that's going to need some significant work to match up to the front bumper. So I'm not even bothering with that. But again, where it was wrecked, you can kind of see some of that metal back in here had a little bit of an effect. So I'm not real sure what's going on, but we got some lows here and some highs here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is work some of these over with a hammer and dolly, just kind of tapping down the highs and then sanding it a little bit until these dark spots where they're low goes away. At least I'll try to get it close. But big sweeping shiners like this that aren't real sharp edges like this one, that are also correlated to the dark low spots, these big sweepers like this, I'm not going to mess with those. I'm pretty sure that the primer will take care of those when I start blocking all that out. So not going to mess with that dent. Got pretty significant low spot right here. I'm pretty sure I can hammer and dolly that out. So this wheel arch turned out pretty good. Really, for as much surgery as I had to do on the inside to get that to work out right, I'm really happy that it didn't transition into some rough spots on this body line. It's a pretty thin curve through here. It's flat, but the only spot is right here. Now I could take a punch and try to come up in from underneath and tap this low spot up, but I don't know if I'm going to do that because of this nice crisp body line here. You might just push the metal around and make the problem worse, but right up in here there's a little bit of low spots again. I think that's just going to be some filler work. It's pretty minor. So you come on around. Here's my Trans Am air extractor cut in. So I knew this was going to need some work, but really it's not too bad, you know. A little bit of grinding on these welds through here to bring those down a little bit, and I think that low will go away. A few little high spots through here. Not too big of a deal. I think that might take a little bit of grinder action just to knock those high welds down, and that might go mostly away. So we'll just keep working that on around. Coming into this spot, you know, this I knew was going to be the rough. So I'm not too concerned about this though, because probably what I'll end up doing is starting about right here, and I'm just going to filler. Nice thin coat of filler all the way down to the bottom of the fender and just level all this up nice and smooth. So that'll be okay. We're going to hammer and dolly. Let's get to work. So there you go. You can see that those low spots kind of disappeared, and it's still going to need a little bit of filler work, but it's really not that bad. You can just barely detect slightly high right here and a little bit low right there. Where I was going to do the filler, I went ahead and scuffed it with 80 and got this all ready for Duraglass or Bondo Glass. And the welds that I do, I like to use a fiberglass filler over top. It's waterproof is the main reason. If you use regular filler over top of your welds and you have little pinholes and it's slightly porous and you get some water leaking in from the backside or something like that, you know, that Bondo will absorb the water. But fiberglass will not. It's waterproof. Fiberglass filler, I should say. So the other thing I do is when I was scuffing this up, I kind of make myself a little mark. I'll go beyond that with the filler, but these marks are so I know where to put the filler. there's been times where I go across the whole panel and I miss the spot. So this helps me do that. So I mentioned Duraglass and Bondo Glass. They're both the same type of product. These are short strand reinforced fiberglass fillers. And it is the short strand. There is a long strand. They call it like kitty hair, tiger hair, or whatever the choice name brand is. It's got a longer filament in it, and I like this for my welds, and it sands pretty good, smooths up. At least this Duraglass did. So what I'm going to do today is try out this Bondo Glass. You know, Bondo, everybody calls filler Bondo. I mean, Bondo's been around forever. It's made by 3M. Sometimes the regular Bondo gets a bad rap, but I'm not really sure why. I like using Rage products, but the Bondo that I have used, again, I haven't been doing this for very long, just trying to figure things out here, but the Bondo that I have used has worked well. So this canister in a comparable size is almost twice as much. So for 1 quart of the Duraglass, it's $23.90 on Amazon right now. And for 1 quart of this Bondo Glass, it is $12.84. Now, neither one of these are the 1 quart size, so that's the difference in size. But just for price comparison, this one's almost half as much. So let's try out the Bondo Glass and see how it smooths on there, and we'll see how it sands. And maybe I'll make a decision if this stuff is worth twice the money. So here we go. Well, so far, mixing it up in the can here, feels pretty good. Mixes nice. You always want to mix up your Bondo in the can, your filler in the can, because there is resin in there that can settle out. So, but yeah, stirring it up feels pretty good. It's got a nice consistency to it. You can see the short strands in there. Looks about the same as the more expensive stuff, so we'll keep on going. So it's mixing up pretty okay. I think one of the things I noticed is that the strands in there are a little bit longer. But I wanted to show you guys this trick, if you can see it. How you mix your Bondo is really important to keep the pinholes out of it. You don't want to introduce air. So if you push in on the paddle and make sort of an arc with it, and then just sweeping like a figure-8 motion, see how that balls up and it just kind of rolls the filler? So that'll help keep your pinholes out of it. Just a little trick. So let's see how it spreads. Oh, it spreads pretty good. I'll tell you what, well, other than the hair being just a little bit thicker, stuff's going on pretty nice. I guess we'll see how it sands. I don't know, with that hair being a little bit thicker, it may not sand as easy. We will find out. I always try to just push a little extra harder with an angle on the paddle around the edges to kind of ghost it in, so that it makes it a little bit easier to sand. Alright, so it's been a few days since I've spread that filler, and it's really not too bad. I mean, there's a little bit of texture in here that I'm not sure that other filler had, but I really think that that's probably mostly from me working it as it was hardening up. Like I said, I always work it more than I need to, so I think I just kind of drug some of that stuff. But anyways, we'll see how it sands, and so far I think it's okay. So I just want to show you guys, I did a little bit here. So far it's sanding pretty good. I mean, I really haven't noticed the difference in how well it sands. I've used the block and I've used this dual action sander. The only thing I noticed is when you're hitting the green section of the coat, when you first take that sandpaper to it, it does clog up your paper a little bit more than what I remember the other. So I just got my little wire brush here, and as it was loading up, I just take my wire brush and scrape it out, so it wasn't really gumming in there too bad. But anyways, just thought I'd show you that. Let me take some of this off for you and you guys can see what I'm talking about. So here we go. Went over the whole thing with 80 grit, and I gotta say, there really isn't too many pinholes. I got some pinholes right in here, but other than that, I'm really not finding a whole lot of issues. And it's sanded really well. I mean, obviously I have some low spots here, but say no more, fellas. I am not spending 20 bucks or so a quart on the expensive fiberglass filler. I'm just going to get the Bondo with the glass in it. It's like 12 bucks for a quart, so it's good stuff. But anyways, what I did here, got that fiberglass filler on there, then I hit it with my DA 80 grit, just took everything down. I'm not real concerned about blocking it, just trying to knock that fiberglass down. And then I did take 80 grit on a block just to make sure I got all the high spots knocked down. I definitely have got some lows. But now that that's all done, I'm going to switch to regular filler, and we're just going to skim coat over all of this, fill these little pinholes, fill the 80 grit scratches and some of these little minor imperfections, the minor lows that didn't get enough filler, and we'll do it all over again. So I've just been slogging away at this Fender. You guys that do body work know what I'm talking about. Once you start putting filler on these things, it's put it on, sand it off, put it on, sand it off. So just been kind of working on that. So anyways, here's where we're at on the Fender. I'm down to the skim coat, so I'm going to sand this off today. A lot of work. So hopefully that's the last bit of filler and we'll be able to put some primer on it. So I think I'm pretty good. After I get all that sanding done, I like to go over it, give it my best feel here. I don't trust my eyes as much as I do my hands. And just check and see, maybe on the edges especially. Feel and see if there's a little bit left over, maybe a little booger on the end, like right there. Felt a little rough spot. And just kind of get it all cleaned up. But the last thing I like to do is go over some of the spots with the 3M red Scotch-Brite, especially in little grooves like this, down inside here where the sandpaper has a little bit of problem kind of getting to. The idea is just to get some scratches on all that surface so that you have mechanical adhesion when it actually comes time to putting that primer on. So I'm going to get this thing scuffed up, blow it off, clean it off, and we'll get it all taped up, and you guys will get to see this thing get turned black, which I'm really excited about. I know you might not realize, but I've been working on this thing for about a week and a half. Not straight, but I got another project going on in the garage, but you know, I just keep coming back to it, and little bits at a time. But it's been a grind. So it'd be really good when we get this thing primered in and back on the car. So stick with me, guys. We're getting there. looking pretty good. Got it out here in the sun. Kind of bake that in a little better, I guess. Plus I just wanted to get some eyes on it out in the daylight, see what it looks like, but pretty good with it. So as I mentioned, I got a dent right here that I'm going to take care of once it's back on the car. And this edge right here, I didn't mess with it because I'm going to need to match that to the bumper and this to the valence. So there's just one or two spots on here I can see I'm going to have to play with a little bit, but I think it'll block out with the primer. I got a little dimple right here that needs to be messed with. Yeah, it's right in here. And other than that, there's really not even that much garbage in it for spraying it in a dirty garage. This arch right here looks pretty good. Where it was smashed and dented, I had hammered it out and smoothed it up. So, right there, I got a little scratch there from, darn it, when I was cutting the paper, I fumbled the scissors and put a little scratch in the filler, but that'll block out, I hope. Now I just got to bolt the wheel well to it and get it back on the car. Well, it's been quite a grind. I've been working on this Fender for a couple, 3 weeks now, but I've had a bunch of other projects that I've been working on. That's how these projects go. You guys know that. Just a little bit at a time when you can grab the time and keep plugging away, because if we're not moving, our projects won't be either. So keep it up, guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I really do like seeing the comments, and I appreciate the feedback that you guys are giving me. So keep on keeping on, and thanks for stopping by Heavy Pedal Garage. We'll catch you next time.